Okay, so we're just talking about this, trying to understand the lay of the land here for this issue. So we have SCIM and we have SAML. SCIM is used to create and remove users. So SCIM would deprovision a user. So we say, okay, this person is no longer at our company or in our department. We want them removed from GitLab. We remove them from this system over here, this SCIM system, and then we have SCIM set up with GitLab, and so that syncs over to GitLab and removes the user from GitLab. But it looks like it doesn't remove their SCIM identity. It sets it to active false, and then it deletes their SAML identity. SAML and SCIM are different systems. So the problem with that is that if the user is re-provisioned with SCIM, so say we have a boomerang, the person comes back to the company or something, then they're re-provisioned, but there's no SAML identity. I don't know why that would be, but that is what this issue is claiming. I don't know what a GitLab database password is. Does anyone else know what that is?
I guess access to the actual GitLab database to find a way to reprovision that user.
Oh, I see. So not a password to the database, but like a user login password.
Yeah, like maybe if they've never set their account up and they only set it up through this method, then if they get removed, they basically have no way to log in.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and it's interesting. That's one thing about our auth systems that was kind of new to me or unexpected because the old system I worked on was different. You can have a password and be a single sign-on user in GitLab at the same time. But you don't have to have a password. Okay, so this is saying, let's just leave the SAML identity alone. Whatever thing is deleting a SAML identity, let's just leave it alone when they're deprovisioned via SCIM. So we remove all their memberships. So we just have to find where this deletion is happening and stop doing it and then update any related tests. Seems doable. Yeah. So I'm going to create a branch over here. How's my size? Bigger, smaller?
Perfect.
Same?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Keep SAML identity. And I truly have no idea where this code is, so it will be an adventure together as we figure out where it is. Yay. Oh, wait, hold on. Somebody made a merge request. Uh-oh, we had to change paths. Who is this person? It's nobody.
Oh, it's a hackathon contributor.
That's cool. Okay, well, let's look at it together and then maybe
I always really like when we get people that are community contributors on my team. We don't get them often enough and they want more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is cool. I think that there might have been a tag seeking community contributions on this. So far, I don't know if this is right because what I expected to see was that we were deleting their SAM identity, and this is just not updating it to be inactive, but maybe that's the same thing. This is the SCIM deprovisioning service. This is the group SCIM deprovisioning. Because you can have instance SCIM or group SCIM.
But the test is actually checking to the identity to don't change its active status.
Yeah,
that's different.
That is different from the from what the issue said, but also maybe the issue wasn't 100% accurate. So maybe we should just open this file. This is good. Let's just open this file and see what it's telling us. Because
could you share the link to the EMR?
the MR, yes, I will do that in the Zoom chat here.
Oh wait, do it in the Slack because you can't copy paste from Zoom chat.
Okay, I'm just reopen. I'll put this in backend pairs. Backend pairs. There we go. Sweet. So that's the MR, and then the issue is here. It's possible, and this happens a lot, I find, right? Where there's an issue somebody wrote, and like if you take it too literally, sometimes you don't end up making the correct change. But so as we remove the SAML identity and we set SCIM identity active false. So we still want that, right? We still want the SCIM identity to be active false. What we want is the SAML identity to not be deleted. And I don't know if we have tests for there being a SAML identity and a SCIM identity. So let's look at this really quick. So it's calling
those changes are not the most updated, because looking at the MR description, the contributor is still working on this, and the first issue they encountered is what they weren't able to test the SCIM API because it wasn't working locally. So they made the change without testing anything, and then they were able to set up something, and I don't know where they are at now.
Okay, that's good that you read the MR description. I should have started there too. Yeah, and I believe if you look at our docs on SCIM, they mention Azure, Okta, and OneLogin. If anyone ever needs to set up SCIM, I recommend Okta. It's so much easier than Azure. I have set up Azure, but it really takes a long time. Okta is a lot more user-friendly, just for like the average developer use case. So maybe it seems like they were maybe trying some other approach. They were using simple SAML. Oh, yeah, this doc. Yeah, so GDK has documentation on SAML. Did someone say something and I cut you off? No. SAML and SCIM are different. So it does seem like maybe this contributor is a little bit confused about the difference between SAML and SCIM. The SCIM API I'm using is here. Which would make sense that maybe because they weren't able to test it, they would be a little bit confused about how these two systems are working together. But SAML is like SCIM is push based, right? So SCIM users get deprovisioned, provisioned and deprovisioned by this other system, and SAML is more like when I want to log into GitLab, my account will be provisioned via the SAML provider over here, but it's not like a directory sync. So, do folks think that we should just try to come up with something and give this person suggestions on their MR? Or how should we proceed? This was 4 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've had okay luck with giving like, hey, here I see you were running into issues. Maybe like here's some steps to unstick yourself, or if the patch might be helpful for them, that could be something that we do.
Okay.
Does it say first contribution? Because if not, then they may already be like
No,
kind of
I
used
also-
to our development workflow, and then maybe they won't be shocked if they get just like feedback from folks.
I did see them in the past, so they're
Okay.
not new.
Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like Artie's been talking to them about this. So they're like engaged. Like they opened the MR 4 days ago. But okay, great. People have already been commenting on this.
Okay, go a little bit down. I have an MR and it passed the CI. It's ready to be reviewed. The only problem is that I can make SCIM working with simple. Yeah, but still, the changes look. They do something different.
Than what is described.
Yeah, because they're not updating the SCIM active status.
Yeah, which I don't think is what we want, right? My understanding
Yeah.
is we still want the SCIM identity to be deactivated. We want the SAML identity to remain. And I'm guessing that whatever calls this deprovisioning service it deletes the SAML identity as well. It just happens outside of this service.
I mean, I think it might be a
okay.
good thing to like add that as a this looks like this might not be exactly what the issue asked for.
Add that, you mean like as a comment or
Yeah, I think so.
okay. But you should be able to point the person to where they should look.
Yeah,
because-
I feel like we can do some like digging in the code and kind of be like, here's
Okay.
where I would start, and maybe give them some links.
Yeah. Okay. I like that idea. Yeah, it's always a tricky balance, like when reviewing code. I guess like if it was an internal person, I'd be more likely to be like, I don't think this is right. Like you should just revisit this. But since they're a community contributor, you know, I want to be a little bit more helpful, like pointing them because they are doing us a favor, their contribution. Okay, so maybe what I will do is
Like,
just
yeah.
quickly grep and see what calls this.
That's what I would do. Just see where that
Okay.
service is being executed from, and maybe there's some worker callback something.
Yeah, okay. So
It's an API.
it's an API on line 30 here. I need to make it full screen here. Patch deprovision,
Delete deprovision.
find user identity. Interesting. It doesn't. That finds their SCIM identity. That's for so delete.
Okay.
Back to delete. So it doesn't. Nothing here obviously is deleting the SAML identity, right? Because it's just finding it. It raises a not found error if it doesn't find it, and then it calls patch deprovision, which goes to that deprovisioning service.
I wonder if there's like an after commit or something on the SCIM identity model that maybe is doing something funky. I don't know. It's really weird.
Or the base deprovisioning service does something. No, doesn't. And after, or maybe system block does something. I don't know where system block is. I bet that's a device.
SCIM identity model doesn't have anything strange.
Nothing with SAML. Hmm.
Belongs to user.
This is always the fun part of anything, right? Trying to figure out where does this even happen. Trying to think of strategies for figuring this out. I think it would take too long for me to set up SCIM and SAML locally because I don't have those set up right now in order just to manually test it. But that is something I like to do sometimes.
What does this user.system block do?
That I don't know. I'm guessing. Let's see. I always have to look this up. How do you in Ruby? Where do you find where a method is defined? There's. If I look on Stack Overflow, it's something I've looked up like 100 times.
def method name. I have no
Well, that's what I
idea.
did. No, you know, there, but
Um,
there's it's source location is the method, but there's something. Let me just go to the Google source location Ruby. Oh, there it is, my purple link. So source location. There we go.
It's an event
So,
system.
it's an event.
Yes,
Yeah, it is an
inside the user model.
Oh,
transition active to LDAP blocked and deactivated to LDAP blocked. What is LDAP blocked?
Oh, and look who made the last change to that event system block.
is it you?
No, it's Jesse Young.
Oh, I swear I've never heard of this method.
It happens to me all the time. I'm like, I've never seen this code before a day in my life. And I'm like, wait, either I merged it or I wrote it.
Yeah. Well, but anyways, this is a thing. User instance method, system block source location will tell. So in this case, it was a little bit of not the right answer, or like it wasn't that helpful because it's
State machine.
it's coming from this
Yeah.
state machine.
But that would have been that. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't have been able to find it with def system block. It wouldn't come up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that just seems like
Okay.
it blocks, like it doesn't touch the SAML stuff.
Well, let's see. So it goes to deactivated.
That LDAP block looked like it just.
Well, that system block event is only used twice in SAML and SCIM.
Okay. So are you saying that? Oh, interesting. It says it should be used for LDAP blocked users, but so if it goes to deactivated, I'm confused by this. If active makes you LDAP blocked and deactivated makes you LDAP blocked. Oh, is that because we don't want somebody to have SAML and LDAP at the same time, or SCIM and LDAP at the same time? LOL.
Aliasing system block to set LDAP blockers status is LDAP blocked is used for LDAP, SAML, and SCIM blocked users.
Oh, there's a really weird method in I don't know. I see it in the SAML code in this method. Sorry, in that
Where in the SAML
file.
code?
It's in what chat do you want me to put in? I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, great.
It's in the find user method.
Okay.
I don't know anything about what this code does. They overrode find user. Where's find user called from? Oh boy, this looks complicated.
Love a one pointer. Love a one pointer.
Well, It doesn't look like the deprovisioning service actually does anything to SAML, but it looks like maybe, if I'm reading this right, in the SAML module, when the user is being found, if they're not in the required group, it blocks them.
And that's
I don't know.
here, user in required group.
And if not, if they're
SAML
not in the required group and they're
config.
persisted, it blocks them.
But I mean, and again,
That's
this might be me like paying too much attention to the issue, but
Yeah.
the issue claims that
We're deleting the SAML identity.
we're deleting the SAML identity, and as a result, that's causing problems.
Let me ask another silly question. What model, what class or what file name is where the SAML identity lives?
That's not silly. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the
I
answer either. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe the issue is that when you deprovision a SCIM identity, both SCIM and SAML are deactivated, but when you reprovision, only the SCIM is activated and on this SAML.
So it's not that it's deleted, it's that it's not reactivated.
And maybe that's why I think that on the issue, they actually mean the GitLab database password, because you can go to the table and set the Boolean field to active if it's a Boolean.
Okay, well, maybe we should look at the SCIM provisioning service. There's not a reprovisioning. Oh, there is a reprovisioning service. Interesting. So there's provisioning and then there's reprovisioning. Let's see what the difference between SCIM provisioning and SCIM reprovisioning is.
Well,
Oh, success responsive existing identity. Oh, but it's persisted, but it's not checking whether it's active.
Identity.
And this is base provisioning service. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, is that now? Yes, where's identity defined here? Existing identity.
It creates the identity.
Oh, I see. Create identity and user. But where is identity?
Oh, it's identity is the same thing. Wait, it's a method in there.
Yeah, and they try to find the existing identity. Otherwise, they build the SCIM identity. And there's
but if it,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say they're finding it, but nothing in here is checking whether it's active or not.
Because when they build it, they set it to active.
But what if it's already there, but it's inactive? Like this is actually reprovisioning.
I don't think when you do that, I think you use the reprovisioning service. So possibly. I wonder why they try to search for an existing SCIM identity in here.
Yeah. We can look at where the reprovisioning service is called. Because it's possible that, let's see, so here it is in the API on line 95. So reprovision, where are you called? Reprovision. So there's just a reprovision method in the API. I would guess that sometimes the provision endpoint is called instead with when it's actually being reprovisioned. Where are you? Here we go. So post request, right? I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly how these things are wired up, but my guess would be that some SCIM services are not smart enough to know to call the reprovision endpoint. They call the provision endpoint whether it's a new user or a reprovision.
Okay.
Oh,
Just
and
a
if it's-
guess.
Okay, I see what you mean. And in the provisioning service, if the identity is existing, it just returns success and doesn't do anything.
That's the theory
Like
that's
line 8
bubbling
is
up
right
for me.
there.
Yeah.
Return success response with existing identity.
Yeah.
If the
And now all that
identity
checks is if it's persisted. Yeah. It's a guess. I mean, I don't without being able to test it.
Well, if we look at this provisioning service and see if there are tests, if we write a test that says like, I don't know, like provision service with an existing something, and if it's, I don't know how to like verbalize this, like kick it out, set it to inactive, whatever, set it to active false, run this thing and see what it does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, interesting. It does not create the SAML identity.
So it has to be created somewhere else.
That's
Well, I think
only,
that,
oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, that's only if, or if the test is organized correctly, it's for an existing user.
Yeah, I feel like if the provisioning service is called on an existing user, but that user has been deprovisioned, maybe the reprovisioning service needs to be called on it instead. Like, is that bad? I don't know.
No, it's not the worst. I mean,
I feel like that would be the safest. Like if this thing is being called, I'm not sure when this provisioning service might be accidentally called on an existing user.
yeah. Create SCIM identity. I was going to see if SAML is referenced in here. There's no reference to SAML in here.
But
in the reprovisioning service test.
But there's not even a SAML identity.
Yeah.
Because I did try to look for SAML identity model or something like that, but I couldn't find it. I only could find the SAML provider.
I think it's identity, at least according to this line 142 here. This is saying this is a SAML identity, so I think it's the identity model. And then maybe there's some attribute that lets you know that it is a SAML identity.
Oh. Because I tried to look for SAML underscore identity, but if I try to look for SAML space identity, there's an identity linker.
Identity linker. I think its provider is named SAML. I think it's like an identity record that has a provider value of SAML. But I would have to test that locally to be sure. Okay. So.
Okay. The identity model belongs to a SAML provider.
The identity model belongs to, yes. In some cases, I think other times there's other providers.
Okay.
I think. It's theoretically something that I should know about, but I don't. So I'm intrigued by the fact that this test exists because I'm like, SCIM provisioning does not create a SAML identity. So what does? There's no reference to SAML identities in the reprovisioning service. And then I guess we haven't looked at the deprovisioning service specs, but I don't Yeah, there's no reference to SAML in here either.
Oh,
I
because
can see how this.
identity is not the user. I mean, it's two separate things, right?
SCIM identity and identity.
No, identity and actual user, because SCIM
Oh,
creates a user. Because the SCIM provisioning service creates the
mhm,
SCIM identity and a user if the user doesn't already exist. But it doesn't create the SAML identity.
It
Or it's
doesn't.
create.
But yeah, what creates the SAML identity?
Yeah.
Is the identity passed in from the base provisioning service? This is the wrong. Oh, this is the right one. So identity. Oh wait, where is identity coming from here again? There's a method, isn't there? So this is a SCIM
delegating
identity.
it. Oh, go ahead. Oh.
Yeah, I just was like, is this the SAML identity? No, it's just a SCIM identity. I could put a different name. Okay. Because the re-provisioning, where is identity defined here? Oh, in initialize. Re-provisioning service. I guess we can assume that this is a SCIM identity, not a SAML identity. Okay, what's
Okay, I think maybe it might be the class's group SAML identity. Hold on.
Group SAML identity?
Yes, if you look at, there's a users factory that has a trait called enterprise user created via SAML. And then let me see, hold on, let me look at that trait. There's another trait called enterprise user created via SCIM. And let me see what this factory is talking about. I feel like I'm digging into the depths, the bowels of something I have no business being.
I feel.
Okay, I will, hold on. There is got to be a factory for this, right?
And user, it's a trait.
There's a trait that's called enterprise user created via SAML. And that trait has another factory being created inside of it, which is creating
Group
something called a
SAML.
group SAML identity.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out where that factory is defined.
Oh, group SAML identity.
Yeah, I'm very confused, but I feel like I'm close, maybe. So a group has many group SAML identities.
Oh.
Group
Oh, it would be it's an EE.
Yes. Factory.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's a class identity. What is going on right now? Come on.
Yeah, that is not what I would expect.
No.
I thought
Group SAML identity is a method on the member model.
Okay.
Or on the project member model, or
I think it's try. I feel like try this model, app models identity.rb.
yeah, this one. So this is the one where we think a SAML identity is an identity with a provider of SAML.
I think so.
There's a group SAML identity factory used for the specs that creates an identity class and sets the provider to group underscore SAML.
Where is that?
I don't know if this is really related, but I sent the link on Slack.
Oh, it's not great.
Yeah, that's where I was at, that group SAML identity. I think we're in the same track. The identity model is the one that is referencing. Maybe there's an EE version.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's fun.
There is an EE version which has this SAML belongs to SAML provider.
Ah, okay. So fun. So, group SAML providers. Yeah, so
I don't know if this found us anything, but I feel like this is what they're talking about. I don't know where this is being possibly modified.
the identity
Yeah.
record,
Yeah.
that I don't know either. It will, and I don't know where it's being modified as it relates to SCIM, right? Like, so if something happens with SCIM, or if something happens with SAML, do we do something to the SCIM identity? And I do think this is a good reminder that we heavily use callbacks in GitLab's code base, which really creates some fun things.
That's what I was wondering, if there's like some callback that's somewhere that we're not catching, that's like saying something got modified and I don't destroy yourself or something.
Yep. I would not be surprised.
Oh.
What? What did you find?
There's maybe not. There's an identities controller that creates the identity.
Under admin?
Yeah, app controllers, admin, identities controller.
Okay.
Oh, and there's also, but this is a Kerberos identity.
Different.
So, yeah, so I think that's different. There's an Atlassian one.
Well, and again, remember the supposed thing we're fixing is something that happens via SCIM provision and deprovision. So in theory, if the issue is right and we just followed the code through that path, we should find it. But I guess we already tried that, didn't we?
Well, yeah, the only thing I can think of, so identity.update, the identity we've found is delegating. Oh, okay. The base deprovisioning service is called with the identity.
Oh,
okay.
I'm remembering something. I've done a little bit with SCIM, and I'm remembering something, and maybe this is what we already found, is that in the API, web API, why is that not? Is it EE? Yeah, it is. Maybe that's fine. Maybe these are just hosted. I was like, oh, were we looking at the wrong endpoints? That's what I was thinking. But I think we were looking at the right thing before. Yeah, this is V2. API again, V2. Find user identity. Oh. find user identity. So this is the SAML identity that's being passed in. They go to the, oh no, it's SCIM identity if I'm wrong. The naming situation here is really a challenge, I would say, in terms of we're dealing with SCIM identities and SAML identities, but the word identity is used a lot.
Yeah. I feel you.
It's really, it's
I have the
throwing
same
me for a
problem
loop.
in my area of code. Everything is called search service.
Mm.
So many search services.
Ah,
So
naming is important.
yeah, I guess I can't see. I see what you're seeing. So this deprovisioning service being called from the API is being passed an identity in the initialization method. The identity appears to be this SCIM identity.
Yes.
But since we're trying to find that SAML identity, why don't we go the other route, try to see how the SCIM API used to create an identity and see where they're creating the SAML identity.
Okay. Although the tests for the provision were saying that it didn't create a SAML identity. Oh, but I guess that was for an existing user, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How do you want to go about finding that? Like, do you want to just look at the code here? Do you want to run a test? Look at the
I would
test.
try to see the endpoint and try to see what it's using.
Okay, so create a SCIM user. This says find and authenticate group. That's fine.
That's calling
Parse the
provision.
param. And then it calls the provisioning service.
And we know that the provisioning service won't create the SAML identity for an existing user, but
if create identity only, okay, create identity only is existing user and existing member, create identity and member. But then it says identity save, and identity is defined.
Member is
Group SCIM, this is a SCIM identity. So it's only creating a SCIM identity. Oh, create user and member. Let's go to that method. If user save.
So it's creating a user.
It's creating a user, but there's no, like the word SAML does not appear in here.
SAML provide, yeah. Go up above a little bit.
Yeah.
Default membership role. SAML provider ID, user params. Okay, I think that's the one. Because it's setting the provider ID for the SAML.
Oh, so it's just setting it on the user?
Yes. What's SAML underscore provider ID? SAML provider ID.
Okay, just for giggles, I look at the issue, the Zendesk ticket, to see what that workflow looked like. I'm not sure if that's helpful or not.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. The person used to use GitLab using their company email prior to the implementation of SAML. They've now come back to using GitLab and have lost their two-factor auth and therefore cannot register back into the group.
They've lost their two-factor auth. That's like a totally different
I
thing.
feel like they were removed from the group. Maybe they were using GitLab prior. I don't understand. This did not help me.
This line that Margot's previous thoughts kind of led us to is interesting. So group SAML identity is where not SAML provider ID. No,
So it's, yeah, so it's basically the identity class where the SAML provider ID is populated.
Okay.
And a
So
user
we still
has
haven't,
many identities. Yeah.
so we still don't know where the identity, like a database record for an identity is being created for this user, but it feels like it has to be in a callback. Nope. I'm just looking for the word identity in the class.
And that's inside user.rb, right?
Yeah, but it's the EE user. Let's just look at regular user.
Okay.
Nope. Oh, auto save true. Oh my word. Yeah, I don't see anywhere in here where a SAML identity is being created, just a SCIM identity still. We've looked in base provisioning service, right? Oh, identity does not occur in there. Another thought I'm having is we're using OmniAuth SAML, Ruby SAML. Like, I wonder if this code is happening in a library or something. That's one thing that really trips you up about our auth code frequently is that a lot of it is brought in via libraries, and so it's like difficult to tell where it happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so there's a user's build service that
Ooh.
is that.
Identity params, build identity.
Oh,
What?
no, nothing. I was just.
Oh, got excited.
I'm like trying to see.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, an user has many SCIM identities.
Yes.
Separate SCIM identity. Oh, maybe this is. Let's have a look at this comment. Because I found a comment from 3 years ago that's saying separate SCIM identities from SAML.
Okay.
This
Where
list.
did you paste it?
Oh, I'm just using code lens. I'm trying to get to the MR.
Okay, hold on. There is. Oh, you do have a user. You have a lib in a user library. Oh. Okay. I'm trying to like see, there are a lot of code that's in here that looks like it's like not quite where I would expect it to be in libraries. There's a add or update user identities method that's in a library that if I was looking at this, I might poke around in there.
Oh
There's-
yeah. Update.
I don't know what all of this is doing, but this looks very suspicious.
Very suspicious. So where is this called?
Don't know.
Find an update. Oh, this is
But this
a
is group SAML user, which seems like it. That's a way to spec.
oh gosh. Okay, never mind.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just
I know.
wondering. Where is this? Yeah, initializing. It's like too many responses to really. Unlink.
Okay. There might be a different, how many deprovisioning services are there?
There's there's
the
instance
SCIM
and there's
one?
group.
Okay. The group one, oh, confusion. I wonder if that might be what's group access.
The base deprovisioning or just the regular group
The
deprovisioning?
let me look. I haven't looked at the base. I was just trying to see like where the SAML provider ID stuff is being like kind of touched. And in the group provisioning service under the SCIM folder, it's like SCIM group provisioning service. That one is setting some SAML provider ID from somewhere. So I'm like, maybe, I wonder if we were looking at like the wrong provisioning service. Maybe the other deprovisioning service does more stuff. Remove group access. Don't know if we're helping you at all, but at least we're all digging through code
No.
together.
I'm like, it's like, I like it. This is the kind of thing where if I was looking at it alone, I'd be like, oh, why did I pick up this one pointer? I thought it would be
not a
easy.
one pointer to me.
I know. Well, I think it could be a one pointer to Drew who created it. And I think what I'll do after this pairing session is probably just ask him if he happens to know exactly where this happens. Or
Yeah. I think what I've noticed is like, especially if you're doing the community contributor issues, you have to almost provide like an overabundance of which files you want them to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this. I tried to look at the repository before I got a job here. I was like, whoa, oh no, I don't even know where to find anything. So maybe the people that have contributed before, they're probably in a better state and they feel more like I do now. But even so, like all of us are kind of, yeah, we're still having a little bit of problems like finding where this.
Yeah.
I feel
Well,
like
and
we're
it's
in the
just
right
especially,
spot. Yeah.
yeah, I think, and it might be that there is also some not even vagueness about like where to look, but SAML identity. Like this feels very clear to me, but then you're right, it's
Deprovision, we
not.
remove the user from all group project memberships. And I
So
wonder,
that's members destroy,
yeah, I
right?
wonder if that's maybe,
Where it's
what's that
happening.
destroy service doing?
That's I'm over here looking at it. And also there's EE app services, the members destroy. So
Remember and destroy data.
cleanup group identity.
Where?
Is this it? In the
Stop.
EE members destroy service.
Did you find
There
it?
it is.
Oh,
Yeah. Line 69.
Hmm.
and we found it 1 minute before the hour.
45 minutes later, we got to what we needed. That is good.
Oh my
That is good
gosh.
pairing.
That is good pairing. Okay, so I think the action then is to get a permalink to this line and ping the community contributor and let them know that like it's SAML, this is what needs to change, not the SCIM identity piece. And I'll let them know that it took 3 experienced GitLab developers an hour to find line of code so they don't feel bad.
2.5, okay.
Hey, I'm glad we found it. 'Cause I was like, this has to be somewhere. Like the person not written up this issue. Like I've worked with Drew before, and he knows what he's talking about. So I'm like, well, clearly,
Yeah,
somewhere.
found it.
Well, I'm glad we found it. So, cool. I know we're at the end of time. I'm going to stop the recording.